GoFundMe page to raise funds for my son's legal defense. In December of 2014, my 25-year-old son, then 24, was sentenced to 50 years for a crime that he did not commit. I'm not just another parent that don't want to accept the facts and say my child is innocent. My son, Demetrick Taylor, is in fact innocent of the charges and of the crime that he was convicted of. He's a victim of inadequate legal counsel. My son hired an attorney to represent him in his case, and during the process, his attorney was disbarred. We were under the impression that his attorney was on a 1-year suspension and would return to, in fact, try his case. We found out 9 months into the process that his lawyer was actually disbarred, and my son's case was transferred to another attorney in the firm, to which was his previous attorney of record's wife. I had no confidence in the attorney from the first conversation I had with her. However, my son was adamant about going on with his case because he had been incarcerated for 3 years at the time. After the first day of trial, I knew that the attorney had lost the case. When a person is incarcerated and going through trial, you're not allowed to communicate with them during recess and different things like that. Had I had that opportunity, I would have told my son at that time to terminate her because she was not adequately trying the case. She did not ask questions that should have been asked. She conducted no investigation into the scene of the crime, questioning the individuals who were actually on scene, or trying to find out how my son was actually picked as the person that committed the crime. A nickname was called at the scene of something, and they took that nickname, and he was convicted of the crime. So many things went wrong in his case. There was tampering with evidence. There was tampering with witnesses. People that we had subpoenaed to come and testify on my son's behalf were intimidated by phone calls, and they did not show up because of fear of their life. The person that actually committed the crime is still out on the streets, and he's free. The only person that was named on the scene, his nickname was given, his full name was given, and he raised funds and found another attorney through questioning to find someone who could, with experience, represent my son and get these charges off of him and get his life back. 50 years is his life. That means he would not get out of prison until he's 73 years old. That's essentially his entire life. I have prior law enforcement background. I was a law enforcement officer myself, and I encouraged my son to trust in the system, that the system would work for him, that he couldn't be found guilty for a crime he didn't commit. I've reviewed my son's case, everything that the attorney had, conducted my own investigation, reviewed the evidence over and over again, and I don't understand how she missed the things that she missed. We see oftentimes that young men are convicted of crimes, and organizations like the Innocence Project will get their case. You have to be incarcerated 10 years before they can get your case and look at it and have the verdicts overturned. I don't have 10 years. There's an urgency now to raise the funds. My mother has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Her memory is slowly fading. I would hate for my son to remain incarcerated till his grandmother doesn't remember who he is. We can't take her to the institution where he is because of her memory. It's just a danger for her, and too hard for him to see her go through that, and there's nothing he can do about it. I don't want my mother to pass and my son is still incarcerated. I don't want my mother to lose her memory completely and never remember my son. The law firm that has agreed to take my son's case has looked into it, and he believes that the best way to handle this is through post-conviction relief. That'll require going to the 19th Judicial District Court, possibly the First Circuit Court of Appeals, and maybe to the Supreme Court. To try that case effectively, he initially gave me an amount of $50,000. After reviewing my case and hearing my circumstances and the situation surrounding it, he agreed to charge us $25,000. I'm here today to ask for assistance in raising some of these funds. We've held some fundraisers and raised some money, but with the urgency now that's placed on getting the funds and getting the case back in court under the time constraints, we have to have it filed within 2 years of a final decision. An appeal has been filed. We have filed a complaint on the attorney to the Bar Association. That complaint was prepared by my son, and I will prepare a detailed complaint for the Bar Association for her. My fear is that she'll try another case, and this will happen to other individuals, and it should not. God forbid it happens to anyone else. I don't know why God allowed it to happen to my son, but my plea is that when you can investigate or can dig into a situation, please do so. I've done that. I've investigated my son's case, looked at all of the evidence that they supposedly had against him, and this case should have never gone to trial, and it should have never received a guilty verdict. However, after watching the attorney do what she did, had I been on that jury, I probably would have went with the prosecution myself. She did a poor job. I begged her to meet me after the first day of trial. I sat in Starbucks with her for 3 hours, combing through the evidence, preparing questions for her, even asked her to talk to the judge about pulling people back on the stand for day 2 so that she could re-examine some of the witnesses that were called by the prosecution. The judge allowed it. And from the information that I reviewed with her and questions that I prepared for her to ask on the second day of trial, out of 33 questions, she only asked 3. And those 3 questions commanded the judge's attention. It was evidence was falsified, and evidence was tampered with, and that was pointed out. She never noticed it. However, everyone sitting in the courtroom did. This past Saturday was the first day that I was able to stand with all 4 of my sons together and take a photo. No parent should have to go through that, not when their child is innocent. You can donate here at GoFundMe, or if you would like to send your donations to the law firm directly, that information will be provided. Thank you, and have a blessed day.